All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Jason Van Wyk, and I'm the marketing manager here at Wood River Energy. Our team is excited to be the supplier of the MSBA Natural Gas Consortium. However, we know there have been some issues and frustration since your supply transition this past summer. So today we'd like to take the opportunity to address those issues and answer any questions that you might have. We want this webinar to be interactive and informative. So if you do have any questions, use the raised hand button, and my colleague Paul will unmute you to ask the question, or you can simply use the chat function as shown on the slide to type your question to the group. We'll also have time at the end for questions. Today, I'll be joined with Alan Peterson, Director of Wholesale Origination at Wood River, Mike Parnell, Associate Executive Director at MSBA, Star McNamara, CFO at Wood River, and Louis Irvine, President and COO at LEV. Today, we'll be covering a recap of the MSBA Natural Gas Consortium, what's happening in the natural gas market, an update on utility notices, overview on billing and invoices, and helpful information for making updates to your account. Without further ado, I will pass it on to Mike Parnell. Mike?
Okay. Just want to give a brief history about the program because many of you probably never really knew a lot about it or maybe new to the position. And so this will kind of give you some idea of how the program got started. Back in the 90s, the situation was that if you were buying natural gas as a school district, you were simply at the mercy of the utility. You did not have options unless you met certain thresholds and had extremely high volumes that you were dealing with. In 2002, MSBA was able to work together with LEV, and we were able to get legislation passed, which allowed schools to form a consortium under the leadership of a nonprofit organization. And then through doing that, we can pool everybody together and be able to buy gas to distribute through all the different utilities that you can see on this particular slide, the service areas that are there. Presently, we have approximately 270 participants in the pool. Because of the way the statute is written, that includes both public schools and non-publics and charters. That's required by statute to allow them to have access as well. Through the program, districts have saved $95 million, maybe a little higher than that at this particular point in time. And that is a comparison of what they paid in the program for their gas and delivery as opposed to what they would have paid had they been on the regular delivery service through the utility. So we think it's been a good program. We've progressed through the years having different marketers. It has been the same team essentially, just different company names because of the companies buying each other out and the merging and so forth. This past year, this is the first time that we've actually transitioned to a completely different team and so forth. And so we expected there would be some bumps in the road, and there has been. Unfortunately, as you'll hear later, there's been some timing issues in terms of how the market has been functioning and so forth, which have played into some of the issues as well. Back to you, Jason.
All right.
Hey, Jason, can you unshare and reshare your?
Yeah, I'll try that. All right, everybody see this?
Is everybody on mute? So they, okay, oh, there's a yes.
Looks like they can see it now, Jason.
Okay. Excellent. I guess it's my turn now.
Yep.
Okay. Alan Peterson, Director of Wholesale Origination, Wood River Energy. And I'm going to talk a little bit about natural gas markets and kind of where we are today and why we have some high prices per se. Natural gas markets. NYMEX, New York Mercantile Exchange, is a physical commodity futures exchange where the Henry Hub, which is a point in Louisiana, is traded. NYMEX is similar to Chicago Board of Trade, where they have corn futures. And so, in essence, all points in North America of natural gas hubs, in essence, reference the Henry Hub. So it's a physical location. Now, the one thing that has an impact on the natural gas markets is, like any other physical markets, commodities like corn, is supply and demand. Over the long run, supply and demand has a pretty big impact on the futures contracts. And as you can see at this chart, where we've been since 2019, there's quite a bit of volatility. Natural gas market is probably the second most volatile commodity next to electricity. And so there's obviously some bumps in this chart, you can see. So one of the things that has an impact on the physical natural gas markets in North America is LNG, liquefied natural gas. This is a new phenomenon that, in essence, started about 2016. So LNG is basically, we pipe natural gas into a liquefied natural gas facility, put it into a tanker, and export it to Europe, China, other countries. Back in 2016, we had zero exports of LNG. Today, we have about 12 million MMBTUs per day being exported. And our overall natural gas production is about 104 million BTUs a day. So in essence, all the Missouri schools are 4.5 BCF, 4.5 million for the entire year. Right now, we have almost 3 times that in LNG exporting. Okay, so when the Ukraine situation happened, we started to ship more over to Europe because the prices were much higher. Okay, so in essence, today we have about 11% of our natural gas production in North America is being exported, when it was zero just 7 years ago. And in 2 to 3 years, we're going to be at 17 million a day, which will be about 16%. So that has a big impact on the futures market. Next slide. So what we also have is a basis. So for the Henry Hub, which is the NYMEX physical location in Louisiana, we also have the difference between Henry Hub and the local gas. So what I'm going to talk about a little bit is Southern Star. So Southern Star is a pipeline primarily in Oklahoma, Kansas, and Missouri. It is the pipeline that Wood River uses to transport natural gas into the Kansas City area. And so there's about 5,800 miles of pipe. And in essence, what we have is this chart here shows us the progression of what Southern Star wholesale prices have been from 2020 through current. And you can see there's quite a bit of volatility. In essence, natural gas as a whole, whether it be NYMEX, Henry Hub, or Southern Star, trades each month. So today, March 2nd, we are looking, the very first month that's being traded today is April 2023, and it trades per month. So April's a different price, May is a different price, June is a different price. So in order for the Southern Star first of the month, or FOM, what we call it, it can also be called inside FERC, these prices get set each month based on the last 5 business days of the month. So for April, the last 5 business days should be the 27th through the 31st of March. Companies, when they do fixed price trades between each other. The people that report these, they get reported to a Platts industry survey that takes all these deals in certain locations across the country and makes a weighted average. One deal might be 10,000 units at $5, another might be 5,000 units at $8. They basically put all these prices and deals together for the companies that report, and that's what makes the first of the month index. So that is in essence a floating index each month. Now, within that, Mike and Louis and myself also occasionally enter into fixed price transactions. So we may lock in 10, 20% at a time when we're looking at these markets and say, okay, today for next winter, let's call it November 23 through March 24, the price is X, and we haven't seen this price for 9, 10 months. Maybe it's an opportunity for us to lock in a price. So in essence, the team here at Wood River and Mike and Louis make these decisions. So the volatility should decrease over time as you lock in a percentage going forward. Within that, we also have potential for price spikes. So if everybody remembers February 2021, Winter Storm Uri. Back in December of 22, we had Winter Storm Elliott, and the price for the gas daily, which is a day market. So it trades, gas trades for 1 month at a time, but then for today, March 2nd, we are trading gas for March 3rd. So it also trades by day. And that gas daily index has quite a bit of volatility as well when we have extreme temperature changes. And so that is another reason why there may be some higher prices. So during Winter Storm Elliott, the prices on Southern Star reached $30 an MMBTU. Now back in February 2021, I don't remember the exact number, but some places in Oklahoma traded $900. I think Southern Star was in the $200 range, if I remember correctly, just per unit. And so when we're buying natural gas for all the schools, sometimes we are in that gas daily market as well. All right, let's go to heating degree days. So heating degree day, in essence, is a measurement that is designed to quantify the demand of energy to heat a building. And it's based off 65 degrees. So in any given day, the average temperature for that 24-hour period, anything below 65 degrees is called a heating degree day. So if today the average temperature for 24 hours in St. Louis is 60, that means today we'll have 5 heating degree days. And so what we looked at for this heating degree day comparison was in essence November 21 versus 22, December and January 22 versus 23 in Kansas City and St. Louis. And so one of the factors that obviously determine how much you consume is heating degree days. And if you can see this chart, in November for 2022, it was a little bit colder than 21, and then January was excessively colder for both places. And then this January was still pretty cold, but not near as cold as January 2022. One of the other factors that does come into play is for the Missouri School Board program on Spire, the utility in Kansas City, Missouri, we are required to nominate, which is send an amount of gas for the schools on the pipelines to the utilities on what they tell us to nominate. So Spire each day or every couple days lets Wood River know, hey, Wood River, for the St. Louis area, nominate 10,000, or for the Kansas City area, nominate 8,000. So based off the tariff rules that the Missouri Public Commission has approved, this is how we operate. Well, In the beginning of November, and this really just pertains to the Spire customers, in November, when we started doing the nominations, we had noticed that it really seemed that these noms, or the gas that Spire wanted us to provide to the schools, was pretty high given where the weather was. We made them aware of this early in November, probably around November 8th. Basically weren't listened to. And again, in December, notified them, this seems to be too much gas. It's too much gas for the weather. We think we're doing too much. Again, pretty much ignored. So what happens then is, if we are purchasing a lot more gas and it doesn't get consumed, Wood River still has to pay for that gas. And so the schools, in essence, we take a look at all of our costs, all of the gas that we have purchased, and then we weigh that against the usage. And so what that does is it increases the cost. So the cost might be $8 for this month, but because we had to buy an extra 100,000 decatherms for all of the schools in one location, we have to take that dollar amount and put it into the actual consumption, so it reconciles. So we are diligently working with Spire at this time. So in essence, what has happened is, for the Spire utilities, Kansas City, St. Louis, we have a long position. So we have, in essence, overpaid for gas, not overpaid for gas, but they have some of our gas that you have already paid for. We're working with them to get to a solution. We think we have it close to being fixed for February and March, but we don't get the usage until a long time after. So these things lag. We're hopefully going to, at some point, maybe next winter, work that imbalance off. So this is still a work in progress. Louis, Mike, and Wood River team is working with Spire to come up with a good plan on working this off. So what should happen in the future is, let's just call it November of this year, Wood River will be able to buy less gas for you, and you will consume more. So that will bring your costs significantly down. So we are, again, diligently working to rectify the situation. And so it doesn't help immediately, but Spire has come to the table and they have acknowledged there's been some issues, and we're trying to do what's right for everybody in this situation. And so it's really be patient and do the right thing in the long run. I know it doesn't help right now with the larger invoices, but there will be a time where hopefully we get close to even financially for everyone. I think the next slide, time to pass.
Hey, Alan, this is Louis.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, if I could jump in real quick here.
Of course.
I guess there's a lot of information there, and some of you are, keeping right up, and some of you are not as familiar. But I think one thing I wanted to mention is the overall strategy of the program, and this hasn't changed from when we had Symmetry as the supplier and its predecessors, and it continues on today. And that is that MSBA is trying, with our help and our advice, we are trying to balance two goals, one being price certainty and one being lowest price. And as Alan was talking about all those indexes and fixed prices, those all come into play in those two goals. So if you wanted perfect budget certainty and you know what your price is going to be, we could lock 100%. You're probably not going to get the lowest price, but you would know for sure what your bill is going to be. On the other hand, if you wanted the absolute lowest price, you're going to try to play the market, and you're not going to lock anything. And so you're going to try to time it, and you're going to, just like the stock market, you're going to want to try to buy low. And the fact is that we have been managing that over time since you know, our group, along with MSBA since 2002, to have a balance of those two goals. So hedging, depending on how volatile it is and how high the prices are, we may hedge more or less in a given year. We may hedge just for the most volatile months of the winter, which is when the gas prices can be the most volatile, which is also exacerbated by the most usage. So anyway, long and short of it is that all of these indices Alan talked about, we watch that many times a day, watch for opportunities to hedge. We watch for opportunities to work with utility to improve how they're directing Wood River to purchase gas on our behalf. So I guess I just thought I would throw that in there, and I know there was a lot of information, and so wondered if maybe there was an opportunity for questions real quick before we go on to the utility information.
Jackie has a question real quick. So are you saying that we will see any kind of credits in the future from Spire for this time frame, or will we just see more even billing in the future? We're going to get a little bit more in depth about this later, but in essence, there really won't be any credits. But let's say, and again, in November, if the gas price is $6 and we buy less of that $6 gas, your price very well could be $4. Okay, so there really won't be any credit. It will just be, in essence, it's kind of a credit, but it won't appear like a credit, if that makes sense.
You won't show a negative line item on your bill. You just behind the scenes, you'll know that all the gas you already purchased, we're going to get back over time, but we don't want to get it all back when the prices are low the way they are now. We want to get it back when the prices are higher, and we don't have to pay for those higher prices. And there's another question there: is it possible to buy for the future or lock in purchases and just pay for what's actually used? We are doing that, and so how it's done is we lock a percentage of our forecasted usage at a fixed price that Mike, approves as we advise and we watch all the time. And then the next, I'll say the next component, or let's say you lock in half of what you expect to use. The other half then is purchased on those indices or those different markets. So, the first of the month, you buy the rest of what you think you're going to use. So that's still a forecast. But then at the end of the month, you look back and you basically see that, hey, we didn't use as much as we thought we would. So we're going to get that gas paid back to us in kind on Spire. It's going to be paid back in dollars on other utilities, but nonetheless, more than what you use after it's all said and done, after the actual month of use. Hopefully, Derek, that answered your question.
Another question here. What if we had a credit from Symmetry and they have not issued back any monetary credit since our contract ended in July? I can't say for sure, but I would guess this still needs to be a school and the Symmetry issue, that you have to work with them. Anybody disagree with that?
If I would like to add, if you're having issues with Symmetry, please reach out to me at MSBA, and then I will work with you to help get a resolution there. Wasn't aware of credits that were sitting out there. I know there have been a couple districts that have recently received invoices from Symmetry for the period when they were still working with the program, which also is concerning to me as to why they would be so late in doing that. But anyway.
Yeah, I would say the Symmetry issues are obviously frustrating. They're still lingering. Obviously, somebody's still seeing that. We're seeing it across the board. They've changed over time with their ownership and their strategies. So I think, unfortunately, we're just going to have to work through those case by case. So definitely reach out. Star, there's another question. I don't know if you want to take that one.
I think we're going to get into that as soon as Star starts talking about the notices.
Any more questions to the gas team about pricing or rates or how strategically the program is being sourced for gas before we move into more of the administrative side?
Yeah, Kathy, I would ask if you would reach out to me, 1-800-221-6722.
So another question. So next year our bill should be slightly lower. Yes. I don't know where future prices are going to go, but we have locked in some gas for next year already at lower prices. And the future prices are lower than where they were for this winter. So they should be. And when you add into the fact that we will be sending you less gas, and so any costs will be with less consumption, it should be, I can't say much lower because I don't know what the future holds, but yes, this should not have a repeat impact because we're working to fix the issues with the over-nomination and also locking in future prices.
Yeah, I would say, and Alan alluded to this, is that it will be lower than it should be at the time. So in other words, you're going to use gas. You don't change how you use, but we're already going to have gas that we paid for, or that you paid for, that we'll be able to provide for that use. So you'll have a lesser cost than what it otherwise would have been once we can start using that long position that we've currently worked. And that's just on Spire, by the way. That's the other utilities don't have that same issue.
Okay, let's move in then to the administrative side of things. My name is Star McNamara. I'm the CFO of Wood River Energy, and the administrative team, so this would be our billing team, our contracting team, accounts receivable, accounts payable, finance, etc., report into me. And we've got a great team, many of which are on the call, that if we have time, I'd love for you to put a face to a name. These are the guys that are picking up the phone calls and answering your chats and whatnot. So we just have a couple of goals. While the gas team's goal is to look at usage and make sure that we're locking in gas prices that make sense and provide value to the program, the administrative team, our goal is to make sure that we get all of your meters onto the transport program with the MSBA pricing so that you can get a single bill for all of your locations and just have that single bill to pay rather than having multiple bills. And I believe we've done a great job trying to move the Titanic program of MSBA over. So for those of you that are still having difficulties getting all of your meters into one location, we'll get to a slide where I will show you exactly who you need to call so that we can facilitate that and make that happen. Our next goal as the administrative team is to really make sure that we are receiving accurate and timely data from the LDCs that enable us to produce accurate and timely invoices out to each school. This has been a struggle. So this slide is to address some of those struggles. And our third goal is to make sure that you know exactly who to call when you are having any sort of issue at all with your natural gas bills, you have questions on anything, that you know exactly who to call. So we're going to have a slide and again show you some faces so that you can actually see who's addressing that on the Wood River side of things. So We have done a Herculean effort here to get all of the participating schools brought onto each. There's 6 new utilities that we're working with, Wood River is working with on behalf of MSBA that service all of the participants. So we've worked really hard to get all of those accounts and meters transitioned over to apply them to Wood River so that Wood River has access to your information. It's been a Herculean effort, as I have mentioned, but I do think that we're very far along in that process now with just a few snags. So with that in mind, what are some of the issues that we have had of late? It is that once we've transitioned contractually everyone over into the Wood River agent name from your utility and gotten all of your meters and are receiving that information, what has happened is a couple of things. One is there was a delay in making sure that all of that information transitioned to Wood River. So there were periods of time, it just depends on the utility that you're on, where paper invoices may have been going to you. Paper invoices may have been going to the previous natural gas provider and not coming to Wood River, or information just simply was not going anywhere to anyone. So we have corrected not getting information into Wood River, which is good. But what that has caused is it's prompted the utility systems to be sending out late payment notices, shut-off notices, past due notices. All kinds of notices are going out, and they could have gone to the previous provider, or they could have gone directly to you as a school. So we now have assurance from all 6 utilities that there is not a single account that does not have Wood River's name on it now. So we are receiving all information directly. The other issue here is that as we pay them, many of these utilities, since they weren't aware of Wood River, had no idea how to apply the payments we were sending them. So we've worked that out now as well. So payments are being applied to your individual accounts. So hopefully we do not continue to see any notices go directly to schools. And why I say that is we've met with each utility and have gotten their assurance on a couple of things. Number one, that no school will be shut off. No school participating inside MSBA's gas program, even if you've received a shut-off notice, will actually be shut off. So we have that assurance from each of the individual utilities. The second is they've all turned off notices, or have told us they've turned off notices, or have redirected those notices to come directly to Wood River. These are all assurances directly from the utility. The third is, and I believe this addressed a chat question earlier, all utilities have also agreed to waive any late fees that have been associated with delays in Wood River receiving data or delays in the utility applying payments that Wood River has made to each individual account. So these are all assurances from the utility directly to Wood River and MSBA. I know there's probably going to be exceptions out there. So if you happen to receive any sort of notice related to a late payment, a shut-off notice, or anything in regards to that, I want you to send that information to the email address listed here on the slide, number 3, ap@woodriverenergy.com. We know exactly who we need to send those to, 1, to get them addressed, and 2, to get any late fees removed. So as long as you're sending them to one central location, we'll be tipped off if there's somehow an issue with a particular utility, and we can get right on that as proactively as possible. Again, you will not be subject to late charges on any of your individual accounts as long as those accounts are with the MSBA program and are the responsibility of Wood River to be billing. You will not be double billed. You will not have a late fee that's passed along from a utility by Wood River. So let me just pause there and make sure there weren't any questions. I know this was a hot matter probably 4 weeks ago, and we've seen a significant drop off now. So here's one question. So the question is, we get one bill for many locations and paid Wood River for a few months with no issue. And then for about the last couple of months, started to get late notices. And I'm assuming these are late notices directly from the utility. So if these are utility late notices, I absolutely want you to send those to that AP at Wood River Energy, and we will make sure that we get those addressed.
If I could follow up on that, based on experiences in previous years, I know what happens. Sometimes it's a matter of timing. And when Star is referencing that they have their notices set, it's an automated process within the utility. And so even though the payment may have been received, if it's the timing involved causes the payments for the program to come a little later than their standard procedure and their standard time period would allow, and they didn't have their program set up to allow for that. So with their standard cutoff date, it triggers their system to automatically send out the notice, even though they may have actually received a payment. But it may not be within that date that their standard computerized system is expecting. And that's kind of what Star is talking about. They had to go in, reprogram, get things changed to where those things won't happen.
All right, so let's move into reviewing just what exactly the Wood River invoice contains, what each section is, what it really means, and it does get much more convoluted than what's being shown here on this slide if you are a Aspire West customer, and I'll explain why. So quickly here, the invoice, and you don't necessarily need to see all the dollars and cents here, but general orientation, upper right-hand corner is going to be your information. So what is your Wood River customer number? What is the Wood River invoice number? What month are we talking about? And when is your bill date and when is your bill due? So everyone is set up with net 30 terms. Anyone participating in MSBA gets net 30 terms, which could indeed be longer terms than what are extended to you through the utility. So if you do happen to log into your portals and pull any sort of utility invoices that are passed through Wood River, you might notice that Wood River needs to pay your bill before we've even actually billed you and before we receive your payment. And we are indeed doing that. The next piece on the invoice is going to be your service locations. You could have 1, you could have 3, you could have 15. All service locations are going to be shown on a single invoice. That's one of the benefits of the MSBA program, is to try to get you to one single invoice. And that's going to give you then your, utility information, your read date information, that sort of thing. But most importantly, that very first line, and I don't know if it highlights if you advance the slides or not. Yeah, okay. So if we go back one slide, sorry, Jason, I just wanted to make sure that we had the highlights in there. The very last thing to point out is at the bottom of the invoice, this is going to total all of your service addresses. So when you're looking to figure out what exactly you need to pay, it's going to be your total current charges. That's going to amalgamate all of your service locations from the invoice into one line item for you. The total natural gas, if you just wanted to know exactly what you're paying for just gas, is listed there. In this case, it's $771. Total fees, These are going to be pipeline and utility fees. These are not marked up. These are not charges that MSBA or Alan or the gas team here at Wood River has any sort of leverage over. These are fees that are directly passed through the pipeline for moving the gas through the pipeline and the utility charges. If you were to go into your customer portals through Ameren or Spire or any other utility and you pull your individual meters and look at your invoices there, they're one-to-one, what's being passed through onto the Wood River invoice.
Star,
Those are,
this is Billy.
yep,
Do you mind if I jump in?
go for it.
I think it's worth repeating that just to emphasize the fact that when we are talking about Wood River providing the supply and the commodity, they essentially have one piece, one line item on this bill that's really coming from our contract with them. Everything else is coming through, passed through, as she said, without markup, directly from the utility and the pipelines. And so, essentially what she's saying is that anything you see from those delivery charges are things that we can't affect or we don't have ability to control. We certainly can intervene if there are issues, but those are passed directly through as they receive them.
And I think I would add too that those fees would exist regardless of whom you were obtaining your supply through, whether it be the utility, MSBA, whatever.
Right. Good point. And I know it's a little different than what we had when we had symmetry. And I can explain that to a certain extent. For example, the pipeline charges and a lot of other charges were thrown in an algorithm and a spreadsheet essentially to come up with a weighted average cost essentially that covered a lot of things. And that we had visibility to that behind the scenes to see exactly what was there. And we did ensure that the right charges were being applied, but you didn't see that. Whereas now that transparency goes right through to you. So you can see exactly, what those charges are being passed through to you. So that might answer, I think there was a question before the webinar about, hey, I'm seeing this and I didn't see this before, pipeline charge. That's the reason why.
So if we move then to the next slide, I just want to highlight first where you can see your gas cost and usage. That's going to be right there in that line item that says index, and Alan referenced FOM, first of month. So this is the index price for gas for the production month of January. And 78.97 was the amount of units that was actually consumed by this phony school for the month of January. And the rate there was $8.45. So that is where you will see your actual gas usage and your actual gas costs. This comes directly from the utility for usage. And the cost is what Alan and Louis were speaking to. These are the monthly prices that the MSBA team is locking down for you. There was a question about, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Average. That's basically, it's the result. It's a calculated number based on all of those components we talked about. Locked price if we happen to have any that month, and first of the month, and daily, and cash, or I guess cash out for some utilities. So that's all in that line item.
So Scott has a question. Why did the fees vary so much? And I think I'll try and dig into this one a little bit. So the pipeline fees, that line where it says MSBA, Ameren, Panhandle, in essence, the utility, Spire, Liberty, they release pipeline capacity to Wood River for the schools to make sure that the gas flows uninterrupted. So we have firm supply and transportation to get it to your school. So when they release that pipeline capacity, there are charges related to that capacity. So they may give us 5,000 units per day that we can use on the pipeline. We don't need it every day because they're giving us capacity for the coldest day. So what we do is we have a fixed amount of charges. Let's say it's $100,000 for that month. We take that $100,000 expense and put the usage into it. So we've taken the total fees that we had to pay and divide it into the usage, and that's why that rate changes. So if you use less in November, it's going to be a higher rate because we still have to pay the demand charges to the pipeline. I hope that makes sense, Scott.
And the utility fees are really dictated by tariff rates, and tariffs can change. So depending upon the volume and what the tariff rates are at the time, you can see some ebbs and flows in the utility fees themselves. There could be new riders, there could be all kinds of new line items. I'm sure you've each looked at your utility bills. There's a lot of line items there that comprise those utility fees. Okay, so then if we move forward here into Spire West, were there any other questions, Jason, in the chat queue that we needed to get to, or can we move forward?
There are a couple more questions, yes.
Okay.
So where are you showing us how much we paid versus how much you received that we are paying for?
Perhaps this is relating to the imbalance of gas, if the pre-purchase of gas from the program versus the actual usage.
And then the next question is, can the rate be broken down, if any, locked in? What is first of the month? What is the daily rate? I think I can get these questions at both at the same time. In essence, we are trying to pass through the exact costs that Wood River has to pay each month. It's not perfect because we'll see later that we get usage way late, but in essence, it's trying to be exact every month on what Wood River has to pay for the commodity and what you are paying us. So they should be as close to zero as possible. That's our goal every month. On the rate to be broken down, I don't think it's possible to get there. We have it in the details in master spreadsheets, in essence, that we spent $4 million for 700,000 decatherms type of spreadsheet and answer, but to break it down on the invoice, it is impossible.
Can I also add to that? There's a couple things. One is you ask about the daily rate. Some schools don't have daily telemetry. I would say a lot of schools don't. And that's one of the benefits of the statute that we put in place back in 2002, is that we can aggregate and transport as if we were a large customer. And so what I'm getting at is these are going to be at a monthly rate rather than a daily rate. So number one. Number two, as far as breaking those down, we can see, obviously we work closely with Wood River and we know what percentage we requested to be locked in. We can see that rate with that particular amount of volume is built into the overall rate, and that the first of the month rate that it ends up being is built into the overall rate, and then the cash out component. We can see all of that at some point. It's not something you can break down on a daily and put all that on an invoice. But rest assured, we are doing regular annual bill reviews where we do sample reviews, and Wood River provides excruciating detail to help us verify where all those prices come in and calculate out to the rate that you see on your invoice. And then as far as Jackie's question about how much you paid for, if you're on any utility other than Spire, it's cashed out on a monthly basis. So you are seeing, you are paying for what you received. Spire is the exception there, and they carry over that imbalance. Instead of cashing it out, they carry it over to the next month, and that's the one that has caused us issues. And we're saying, hey, you've already paid for more gas than you used. But we don't want to get all that gas back right away. We want to carry that imbalance over until we have a better opportunity to get more value for that. So I don't know if Jackie, if that answers your question or not, but that's hopefully helps a little.
So we're getting towards the end of time here, but I do want to address Spire West. I know there is a significant amount of participants that are representing the Spire West utility, schools that are served off the Spire West utility. So this invoice is in essence the same as every other invoice that we send out by general location of items. What makes Spire West different is we've referenced that there is a significant lag at receiving some of the Spire data. That is abundantly clear when we look at Spire West. So for Spire West, we receive the data about 45 days in arrears from when you've actually used it and been billed for it. So this could mean that your January usage, which many of you have mid-December to mid-January read dates for your January usage, I did not receive that data until the end of February. So if we waited to receive that data to bill out each school, you would be receiving bills this week for your January usage. Working with MSBA, that is not ideal. We want to get you accurate information as quickly as possible. The way to do that for Spire West is you are billed timely each month based on an estimated usage. That estimated usage for the month of January in this example is derived by looking at 2 years of history that we've pulled for each and every one of you from those from Spire West. So you will receive estimated usage. The orientation of your invoice doesn't change. The only thing that changed is you are not billed each month with that current month's actual usage. So in this example, Jason, if we do a side by side here, well, we can do this one. So in this, yeah, sorry, I was skipping all around on you there. So in this example, the green highlighted line item here is not your actual gas usage for the month of December. This is your estimated usage for the month of December. What the December bill here is doing is it's truing up estimate and actual for November in orange. And the in green is your estimate. And if we go to the next slide, I'll show you. It was very important in working with Mike and Louie that they wanted to get the bills out timely to each school, but they did not want any one school to have some accruing large balance and this, true up invoice that's going to surprise any one school at any one point in time. So we have agreed that absolutely every single month you are trued up. So with Spire West, the line items get longer, but in all that you're really seeing here is that we are taking the estimated usage and billing you out for the current month. The prior month's estimated usage is being trued up with your actual usage. And this is going to drive any sort of changes that there are related to the utility fees. So we have to bill out estimated utility fees on estimated usage. When we receive those actual fees, same thing, they're just being trued up. So you have the same mechanisms in your invoice for Spire West. You've just got quadruple the line items here. And again, we wanted to err on the side of being completely transparent so that if you were to compare your November bill and your December bill in this example and look side by side, you can see the exact charges going in and out and being corrected. I'm giving kind of a quick overview here. If there are any questions specifically related to Spire West, we have a team of people that are on the line here that I'd be happy to put you in contact with that can answer your questions.
And we are also working with Spire to correct this, to try and get the usage sooner so we don't have these reversals, which is a work in progress like the other situation, but hopefully we'll have a resolution that this does not continue forever.
So quickly, if we go to the next slide here, I want to introduce, well, let me go over just the straight billing information. So everyone that's a participant in the MSBA program, we do get contact information, including emails, and we email invoice notifications out once an invoice has been generated. So you receive an email to all of the contacts that are listed to receive that notification that say you have a new invoice, and you can log into your portal and pull that detail down. As I mentioned, all accounts are net 30. If I know this can create some issues with the timing of the bills versus your board meetings, don't worry. I'll introduce you to Holly, who's on the call. You can give her a call and she's happy to work with you. We can't necessarily change bill dates. We bill them as we get them in, but we certainly have flexibility to make sure that you're not incurring any late fees, so that you can get your board meeting approvals as needed. And then payment options, so several payment options, check, wire, automatic payments. You can sign up on the portal. All of the payment information is listed at the bottom of each invoice. And on your portal, you can also pay using a credit card if that's more convenient for you. Anything related to your invoice payment, payment not being applied properly, if you see a past due balance on your Wood River invoice and you want to question that, ar@woodriverenergy.com. And that is manned by a couple of people, but I'll introduce you to Holly, who is the primary on that particular group inbox. And the next slide here is, let's just introduce our team and ways to contact us. What Wood River really prides ourselves on is you can get a live person on the phone. You can get a live person if you pop up and do a chat, you're getting a live person. You can email, you're getting live people. We're a small team, but we're a very dedicated team. Our goal is to, if we can't get a response to you, that we will have that response if you send an email within 24 hours. If that's not happening, please reach out to me, Mike, Alan, any one of us. We want to make sure that we're making good on our word there. So here are ways that you can contact us. If you log into your customer portal, which many of you have done, there is a contact form inside the portal that you can fill out. There's a couple of different tabs if you wanted to add contacts, or if, depending upon what you're wanting to do there, but that's just a self-help way that you can do it. So if you don't get us during normal business hours and you want to change information, you can do that through the contact form on your portal. There's a little chat bot that'll pop up if you're in your portal. If you just type a question in there and it's during business hours, you're going to get our customer care team, live people sitting right there that get that chat, and they will respond to you. There is no AI. There is no computer answering that. That is our customer care team, which Dacia and Amanda, I see you guys have popped into the presenter queue here. So Dacia and Amanda are our customer care team. They're primary on all of the chats and on the customer care line if you email or call that phone number. We also have our accounting team. So if you have any questions on invoices or on payments, I mentioned ar@woodriverenergy.com. There's a direct phone number that gets you straight to multiple people that are manning that call queue. And Holly is also over in the presenter side of things. Holly is the primary for all of that and all of AR, and she's absolutely fabulous if you haven't talked to her already. And then we have our contracting team. So if you are having any issues with bringing your locations over, your meters over, or adding any sort of new accounts, we have Joe and Sandy on the line, and they are absolutely fabulous. They both man the contracting email box, and both of them are more than happy to help you out. I know many of you have already worked with Joe, and things can get tricky working things through the LDC, but Joe, we like to say, has grown up in the industry, so she has great contacts and is really able to smooth things over quite quickly. So please reach out to the contracting team for adding new accounts or meters.
Another question here, some from Sarah. Some of our schools have estimated amounts, while others have no estimate for the current month. Is this going to be consistent in the future? I'm guessing she's on Spire West, but I don't know because it doesn't have the information. Okay, so
on that, Alan, I know that there are a couple of districts that are serviced by two different utilities because of the location of their facilities. So that could be the situation there. But once again, I don't know what district we're talking about there.
Yeah, well, we hope if that's the case, if you're on two different utilities, it's because if one's not on Spire West, they're not estimating it. If it is on Spire West, we are estimating it, and we hope that's not going to happen in the future. It's just, I mean, it's not going to be immediate because it's a process, and yeah, it's a difficult IT system situation that I can't even comprehend.
Sarah, if you type in which school or schools you're with, then we can follow up with you and just make sure that we can address what your question is. Excellent. We'll follow up with you. Thanks, Sarah. So are you guys okay opening it up here, and any other questions or anything that we can address gas wise or administrative wise?
Looks like there's a question from Troy, but I think maybe that's a specific example that someone will need to address from Wood River.
No, Joe responded to him that she's going to call in.
Sorry.
Okay, here's one. If we need to discontinue service at one of our locations, should we contact Wood River or Spire?
Wood River and the contracting team. So Joe and Sandy do those daily.
And to everybody here, we'll be sending, for all attendees, we'll send a recording of this webinar. So you'll have that, and we'll include this contact information for our team. So that way you can easily save that.
Aurora has, okay, somebody gave a thumbs up. I'm assuming someone's going to call Aurora.
Absolutely.
Okay, if there's no more questions, Mike or Louie, anything you guys want to add here?
For my,
Mike, you want to
go ahead, Louis.
I guess I would just, convey to the group that the program has been phenomenal for a long time, but it is well known in the industry that it is a really difficult thing to switch suppliers, especially with a group this large and spanning this many different utilities. And there's almost always, well, I'll even go so far as to say always, because Louis Sr. Has a lot more years behind me and he's conveyed the same to me, that it's just always the case that you're going to have some sort of issues. I would say that the good news is that we are very pleased with how Wood River is handling this, especially because a lot of these issues, I'll say almost all the issues that we've seen are not I'll say their fault. It's issues with the utility having something incorrect or delays in getting the data so that they can bill, and things that we can help resolve, but things that will just take time. So we're very pleased at their ability to and their willingness to address each and every one of these things as quickly as we can. And we've worked really closely with Mike and Wood River in dealing with the utility issues. We have the utilities' attention for sure, and I can just say that it's only going to continue to get better. The markets are certainly throwing us for a loop, and over the last year plus. So I think hopefully we'll see that settling down as well. But anyway, I just hope that you also appreciate the fact that they're willing to put on webinars like this and just be really transparent and work through the issues. I'm not so sure. I can tell you that other suppliers, I won't say names, wouldn't have this ability or interest to go to this level. So hopefully you're getting your answers, and certainly let us know if you're not.
Yeah, and I would say ditto to everything that Louis just said, and we truly do appreciate Wood River's efforts in working through the issues. They've been very, very responsive to us and sharing the needs and when I expressed the frustrations that some of our clients have experienced. If you do have issues that you need to follow up on, I appreciate being made aware of those, and will always be ready to work and fight for you to help get things resolved in that. So I don't know all the answers, but with our team, I usually do some learning as well, and can help you get things squared away in that.
Okay, I think that we'll have this available. Jason, you want to give us a heads up on that?
Yep. So everybody, like I said, you'll all receive an email with a recording of this and a slide deck. And then we'll have Mike's contact information along with the different Wood River